prescription without diagnosis is recruiting malpractice. Prescription without diagnosis is recruiting malpractice. One is, do they have a problem we can solve? You have to go in like, I would go into almost every assignment at the beginning, like, I don't know if I can help this person for a variety of reasons we'll talk about. So the first thing is, sometimes you'll hear from a hiring manager, before I go any further, what's your fee? If you answer that question, do not pass go, do not collect $200, go directly to jail. I can't help you if you answer that question. And my response is for you all, and my response was, Mr. and Ms. Hiring Manager, at this point in the process, I have no idea. I have no idea, one, if I can help you. Two, I don't have any idea, bluntly, if you're realistic in the marketplace. Three, I don't know the level of specificity and the level of involvement you want from us. And why don't we determine that together? And then I go right into my first question, like without a breath, because they've already told you probably they have an opening for fill in the blank. So they have a need for a controller in Chicago, right? Whatever. So I have no idea. Then I go, I want you to imagine, I'm just going to give the hiring manager the name Jane, so I don't have to keep saying Mr. and Ms. Hiring Manager. I want you to imagine, Jane, you've hired this person, this controller in Chicago, and it's a year from now. And I talk this slowly on purpose. If you've seen in the first hour, I tend to talk quick, but when I'm taking a search, when I'm doing a diagnosis, I consciously slow myself down. So Jane, I want you to imagine you've hired this person and it's a year from now and you're thrilled with his or her performance. Like they've met and exceeded all your expectations, and you're coming up to do, and they're coming into your office for their first year review. And you're beaming with pride. Tell me what they accomplished in that first year with you. If you take nothing else from this event and you just change your first question to that, it will be a game changer. It changes the whole search. It changes the entire search because no one asks that question unless they've been trained by us or they've been to one of our events. You will hear, that's one of the best questions ever asked. That is a substitution for what are the duties and responsibilities. They're going to give you a story of what a great first year looks like. Then you can probe into there for specificity and what their role is going to be in that, and what support systems they have, what kind of software. They'll come on. They will have identified this controller. If they've had an outstanding first year, they will have identified 8.5% of expenses that are duplicitous or that we're spending money. They're going. We want somebody to come in and find it, and kind of the fat in the organization from an expense standpoint, streamline our accounting systems. We're using this kind of software. We want them to see if they can, blah 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 blah. They will have talked about it as if it's already occurred. By the way, so you're going to hear this in a story, not bullet points. When you hear it in a story, one, it makes it that much easier to sell it. And again, then you pick apart that answer for depth and specificity. What it does is this takes people to the visual part of your mind. If you're taking the search, for example, on Zoom, you'll see them look up and to the right. That means they're actively looking in their brain, versus if you said, what are the duties and responsibilities? The responsibilities are to cut expenses. The responsibilities are to get a new in-house software system from a standpoint. I don't place controllers, so I don't. They just give you bullet points. And if you take that back to a candidate, you're just probably reading their existing job back to them. After you've taken that question, which is the duties responsibility question, as far as you want to take it, as far as you can, then I back into it and I'd say, hey, Jane, for them to be able to execute at that level, what are kind of like the batteries included that they've already got to have that you don't have the time or the expertise or the bandwidth to develop? Like, what are those core things they've got to bring to the table? Substitute for what are you looking for? What's the background? Again, it's a consultative way to ask the same question as to what's the background. And again, if you're doing a diagnosis, you want to start with a problem. The problem is, what's the vision for what they want to get done? Then we back into what's the requirements. Now that you understand what has to get done, especially depending on how well you know your niche, you're in a much better position to challenge on the background. or strategize on the background. All these things lead you to be a trusted advisor. And again, like I said earlier, I just recorded a podcast this morning with Danny Cahill and Scott Love, and the first thing out of his mouth, and this is where Scott and I are in 100% agreement. The way you distinguish yourself as a great recruiter is based on the quality of the questions you ask, not about any statements you make. I'll say that again. The way you distinguish yourself as a great recruiter is based on the quality of the questions you ask, not on the statements you make.